Okay, at this time, I'd like to call to order the Administrative Services Committee meeting for January 22nd. Please call the roll.
Councilor Corradino.
Here.
Councilor DeMasi.
Here.
Councilor Hill.
Here.
Councilor Tesserero.
Here.
Councilor Wilmot.
Here.
I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of the January 7th, 2019. Councilor Tesorello, Councilor Wilmot.
Councilor Corradino.
Yes.
Councilor DeMasi.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Tesserero.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes. Is there any old business for this committee? Seeing none, moving right along to item number 1 under communication. The Wastewater Department requests authorization for Mayor Barlow to enter into an agreement with Brown and Caldwell for engineering services for design services for the West Side HVAC system. Is there anybody here to speak to this? Mr. Schreiber?
Good evening. You've already approved the dollars for this. Don't need to ask you for those. So we interviewed engineering firms, and Brown & Caldwell gave us what we felt was the best proposal to provide these services to do the redesign of the HVAC system at the west side. Just for your information, we've got pipes and stuff that are leaking and falling apart, and so we need to put new ones in. So that's pretty much that. They're also going to be looking at energy efficiency as far as some of our out areas and doing something different there. Instead of doing one main boiler and running all the pipe, actually doing unit heaters in different areas, which will give us a more...
Very good. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Tesorello.
This is just for the design, correct? So we haven't awarded a contract to a contractor?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
And what was the figure?
$70,000.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, can I have a motion? Councilor Hill, Councilor DeMasi.
Councilor Corradino.
Yes.
Councilor DeMasi.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Tesserero.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes. Item number 2, the Engineering Department requests approval of change order number 3 for the general contract with W.D. Malone Trucking and Excavating Incorporated for the West Side rehabilitation of sanitary sewer second 25% in the amount of 0 for additional work. Funds provided from allowance under B1-13 miscellaneous additional work. Is there anybody here? Yes, Mr. Johnson's here to speak to it.
Yeah, so we had 2 sewers that were non-existent practically and or out of control bad. So on Niagara Street they had a 4-inch, basically a combined lateral system, or people are all tied to one pipe. So met with Randy Cameron and we went with a 8-inch main down the street, brought new lateral service over and tied it in. And it was a time and material type of project. So we kept track all the time, all the material, and Ohio Street had a piece of stone sewer that came off of West First Street, went up just so far into a stone vault, and you couldn't clean it, you couldn't camera the thing. So that was another time and material project. So it came in underneath the threshold for the additional allowances. And so that's what we ended up doing.
Very good. Any questions? Councilor Tesorello.
Yes, Bob, were these shared services that we separated, or were they individual?
No, they were as part of the sewer rehab. They were not combined sewers. It was, when I said combined, actually I should have said common. It was more of a common lateral. There were all the houses tied to a 4-inch service. So when we got up in there, we tried to get a camera down, you know,
Gotcha.
take a look and smoke test. Found out that there was not really a sewer main on the street between 5th and 6th Street. And so consequently, we put one in. You know, so now it's a serviceable sanitary sewer main.
Thank you.
In the interest of transparency, what was the final additional amount?
Say again?
What was the additional amount for
The
this work?
additional amount was like $130,000 for the 2 sewers and some change.
I've got 135.63.22.
Yeah, 130,563 and 22 cents. So that was for the 2 blocks of sanitary sewer. They were not put in the original contract, and so that, you know, they had to be done. There's no question about it.
All right, very good. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, can I have a motion? Counselor DeMassey and Counselor Tesorario.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Tesorero.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Item number 3, Nancy Stereo, Personnel Director and Chair of the City of Oswego Deferred Compensation Board, asks for award of contract to Generation Capital Management LLC for investment advisory services. In addition, she asked for authorization for Mayor Barlow to enter into this agreement. Ms. Stereo, would you like to expand on this one?
This was, I'm bringing back the proposals that were received from last year's, when I came to the committee, to the council to ask for proposals for this service. Awarding this contract gives our employees a little more flexibility with regards to where they plan their retirement savings account if they belong to the Deferred Compensation Board. Generation Capital is the only one that submitted a proposal. But myself, Debbie Code, and Mark Tesorario looked at it and felt that what they were offering was a good opportunity for our employees. So we're asking for award.
All right, very good. Any questions for Ms. Stereo? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Counselor Hill, Counselor DeMassey.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Tesorero.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes. Item number 4, the Engineering Department requests the mayor be authorized to sign the proposal with Bergman Architects to inspect the High Dam hydroelectric facility in order to meet the FERC requirement. Mr. Johnson again?
Yep, so the FERC requires us to do every 5 years an underwater investigation of the spillway and of the foundation of the powerhouse. So last time we hired Bergman and put a dive team in, sea diving. So want to get the same crew in so we have some continuity with the reporting. And the item is in our budget. Okay, so it's already budgeted, but just need authorization for the mayor to sign the agreement.
All right, very good. Any other questions for Mr. Johnson on this item? I see a question in the back corner. Yes, sir. Step right up to the microphone. Sure.
Can Brookfield share the cost on this? They're always over there. What's their function anyway?
They work for us.
But they get the money off that place too, don't they?
They work for us, so we pay them.
They ought to share the cost. Thank you, Rob.
Yes, sir. Any other pertinent comments? Seeing none, can I have a motion? Counselor Hill, Counselor DeMassey.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Tesorero.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes. Item number 5, Caroline Anderson, Animal Control Officer, requests council approval to accept the low bid by the Mason Company for the manufacture of cat towers and cat runs at the Oswego Animal Shelter. Caroline?
Hello. This is actually a purchase that was budgeted in the 2018 budget, but it went up for public in December, so it's kind of got started a little late in the game. The only bid that was submitted was by the Mason Company, and we've actually purchased from them before. They have really high-quality cages and things like that. This is going to replace, I don't know if you remember from visiting the shelter, there was 3 cat rooms in a row down the one hallway. This is going to replace cages in all 3 of those cat rooms. The first 2 are going to be cat towers. It's going to replace, I think there's going to be 24 cages put in there, and then the third room that's a big wide open room right now is going to be 4 smaller cages in there, so we can give some of the cats a little extra room and hopefully get some volunteers in with them and help socialize and things like that. So,
Okay. Any questions, comments? I don't know if if you were involved in the bid process, I see Onondaga County did it all, but the company that won it, Mason, they must be a specialty company that does this kind of work?
Yeah, they manufacture the cages, and they actually did request bids from other companies. I think they did. There's several that manufacture these kennels and animal cages for boarding facilities and shelters and stuff like that. Another one was Shoreline that they tried to get from. We've purchased from them in the past, but yeah, it's a specialty company. They manufacture everything. They build it to specs and exactly to fit your space.
Yeah, because I saw Shoreline was the other bidder, and they did not submit a bid.
Yeah, nobody
That's
else submitted a bid.
Okay. All right, anybody else? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Councilor Wilmot, Councilor DeMassey.
Councilor Cordino.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Tetzera.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 6, Thomas Reynolds, Assistant City Attorney, requests that the Administrative Services Committee review and forward this proposed agreement of sewer use between the City of Oswego and the State University of New York College at Oswego to the full council for authorization for Mayor Barlow to execute the agreement. Councilor Reynolds.
This contract has been a long time in coming. The last contract, if you saw this contract expired in 2015. I picked it up in June of 2016 and have been negotiating it ever since. But I would say that with the input of a lot of the city department heads, we modernized the contract over the previous contract, like with escalation clauses, with late payment penalties, with provisions that allow for continued escalation if the SUNY Oswego fails to come to the negotiating table, or if we don't arrive at a contract like it took us now almost 2.5 years to get to this one. One of the very important sticking points was the DPW and the Water Department wanted to have the opportunity to look at the facilities of SUNY Oswego because they're not entirely sure that a lot of the flow into the sewer treatment system is necessarily the outflow of the fresh water once it's consumed. So the various department heads wanted an opportunity to review the architectural drawings, the engineering drawings, and inspect the various input facilities and the meters to make sure that we have a handle on exactly what's going into the system. SUNY Oswego, quite frankly, denied that. We had to go to their council and to get an opinion as to whether or not they could be required to allow the city to do that inspection. Their initial response was that we can't tell SUNY Oswego what to do. But the issue is we're not telling them how to teach. We obviously can't be involved in their, what they do as far as their mission is concerned. But, their mission is not regarding sewer treatment and the facilities that come into the city to treat that. So finally we got an opinion favorable to the city. Yes, we can inspect. And every time there was a change, they had to go back to the comptroller's office, which further delayed the various responses. So this contract takes into account bringing the rate up to the actual cost, and we're getting it retroactive to the date that the previous contract expired. So once the contract, if it is approved by the council, we'll get a retroactive check based upon the metered usage that will get to us the revenues, the difference in revenues that we should get at the rate for the 16, 17, 17, 18, so on and so forth. And that the rate starts at $10 per thousand of gallons for June of 2016. And it increases 3% every year from then. So right now the city stands to receive a check for just under $300,000 based upon the new negotiated rates. That's for the portion for 16, 17, and 17, 18. You'll also see that the college pays for a portion of the infrastructure improvements to the West Side Water Treatment Plant, and they agreed to pay 9.4%. That figure was calculated. They're paying that to the city at the rate of about $22,000 a year. They originally were going to make 5 payments, but there was a proposal that they spread that out over the length of the contract, which is about 25 years. So what's working here is, number one, the city is going to get paid for the college's share of the infrastructure improvements. That's one set of payments, as well as, of course, getting paid for the usage based upon the water metered usage that they're using and the amount that they're consuming. So there's a lot of history there. I'm happy to answer any questions, but it's just taken time because we'd proposed something and it would take them about 3 months to answer, and then they had to go to the comptroller's office. Anyway, here we are. So.
Very good. Any questions? Councilor Tesorerio.
I'm going to reflect this to Commissioner Kells. Are you happy with the metering process that we're going to be able to agree? If you could address that, please.
Council is still investigating that at this time, in between snowflakes.
Well,
We're doing our best to
oh, yeah.
keep looking at that.
Okay, so we're going to get...
Not made a determination at this point.
So we're going to try to get accurate readings off their meters. And okay, thank you very much.
Also, as part of the contract, it requires now SUNY Oswego to notify the city when they change or modify or update their system, so that we know that whatever comes into the system is going through the metered portion, so they're not just adding something sort of on some trunk line that we don't know about. So that also was another part of this new contract.
I see a question in the back corner again.
Just education. Originally, I was led to believe that this was only going to be for the dorms that were inside the city limits. But now you're saying that the entire campus is involved in this?
That's what the previous contract...
No, I thought they signed a contract with that other housing project out there to take it out that way.
That is part of the Town of Oswego Sewer District, separate from the college. There are two separate contracts.
So the college isn't dumping into the Town of Oswego then?
You are correct. They're not supposed to be.
All right.
So there are two contracts. There's a contract with the town, the sewer district.
I'm confused because, look at this before you, Tom, okay? This goes back to Hamill even, okay? I'm just confused about, I thought he had an arrangement there to take the college out to the Town of Oswego and everything inside the city was ours. Was there shenanigans here? Is that too abrupt of a question?
No, I respect your right to ask the question, but I don't really know the history behind it, quite frankly, Miles. All I know is that there are two fairly recently negotiated contracts. There's the one with the Town of Oswego Sewer District.
Yeah.
That's an entity unto itself, and that's based upon usage, metered usage. That contract was settled about a year or two ago, I think. And this is a separate contract just with the SUNY Oswego wastewater, period. That's what this is. It has nothing to do with the town or that new development outside of the...
Okay. Thanks, Tom, okay? Thanks for educating me.
Anybody else have any questions for Councilor Reynolds? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Councilor DeMasi, Councilor Tesorerio, please.
Councilor Corradino.
Yes.
Councilor DeMasi.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Tesorero.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes. Thank you. Item number 7, Mayor William J. Barlow Jr. and Nancy Stereo, Personnel Director, request discussion and authorization to become a select employer group with the Empower Federal Credit Union. Ms. Stereo?
The mayor was approached and asked me to come in on a meeting that we held with the Empower Federal Credit Union regarding the status as a select employer group. And tonight we do have representatives from Empower here, David Dewar and Charlie Noah. I'm sorry, I lost her name. Sorry, Charlie. And they can answer any questions that we have, but it involves allowing our employees and their family members to become members of the Empower Credit Union, and correct me if I'm wrong. And then, in addition to that, there's certain benefits because we are a select employer group that Empower provides to us. And they have agreed to answer any questions that anyone has regarding this.
All right, let's open it up. Any questions from council? Any questions from the public? Oh, I see a question from Councilor Hill.
Could we just get a brief overview of the program? Just something very brief.
Good evening, and thank you for giving us an opportunity to speak tonight. So Empower Federal Credit Union, as you know, has branch operations here in Oswego and 2 in Fulton, one east and west of the river. And essentially, Empower is a select employee group credit union. In other words, in order to become a member of Empower, you have to be a member of a SEG, or Select Employee Group. The acronym is, we're a SEG-based credit union. This compares with other credit unions in Oswego County and throughout the country that most are community-based. So if you live, work, worship, or go to school within the county of Oswego, you can become a member of those credit unions. So essentially what this letter does, it's a request letter that goes into the National Credit Union Administration, or NCUA. That's very comparable to the FDIC with a bank. And the request goes in asking if the city of Oswego can become a select employee group of Empower. And essentially what we do is then we fill the shoes of a credit union as if it was part of the city of Oswego. Many of our parents work with companies that had credit unions, like Anheuser-Busch in Baldwinsville has its own credit union. Today, due to compliance issues, regulations, it's not practical for entities such as the city of Oswego to form its own credit union. So the requests are quite common that go into the National Credit Union Administration or the NCUA to request to become a group. There is no charge, and as Nancy pointed out, there are several benefits. One, the employees of the city can become members of the credit union if they choose to do so. There's certainly no obligation for them to do that. Any family member can also become a member of Empower, and maybe the biggest benefit is we do a tremendous amount of work with our SEG-based businesses, of which we have 7,200 of them in 9 counties throughout upstate New York. And Charlie Knoll represents Oswego County for us. So we do over 200 lunch and learns a month with 9 folks that we have on staff. Many of them are for budget purposes, or identity theft is a popular one. How you can affect your credit score is another popular one. And we do them based on the culture of the departments that we have with the city. We can do them in the morning, we can do them at lunchtime. We really do them whenever you would like us to do. Generally when people are either taking coffee or lunch, and they're usually a 20 to 30 minute type presentation. People love them. All the credit goes to the employer, and as I said, there's no cost.
Very good, thank you.
Absolutely.
Any questions? Councilor Tesorario.
As far as investment back in the community, business loans, home loans, I mean, where do you stand on what you do with that? I mean,
yeah,
is that
literally
something?
1 in 4 households in Oswego County are members of Empower Federal Credit Union, and the majority of them have their mortgages with us. So we are the #1 mortgage company in Oswego County, as well as the #1 mortgage company in Onondaga County.
But business-wise, do you?
We do commercial lending as well.
Okay.
I would have to say the home, because we're a credit union, it's more member-based, and those members are more residential.
Gotcha.
But we do have 5 people currently that do commercial lending in Oswego County. As well as what occurred to me too, Counselor, is the sponsorships and donations. So that's another way that we give back. Charlie's very active with the Chamber of Commerce and identifies companies, not-for-profits, that sort of thing, where we actually give back annually for those entities.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there a cost to the city for this designation?
There is not.
That's good news. Yes, Councilor Hill.
Are there any other SEG-based credit unions locally?
There's one called Summit that's based in Rochester. They have a branch operation in Cicero. but there are none locally. So Compass did start out as a seg-based credit union at Novellus, or what the company was at that time. They have since become community-based, so you just need to live, work, or worship or go to school to be a member there. So most credit unions, for one reason or another, have chosen to become community-based. And we see it as a very big benefit to us and to the SEGs to stay just where we are, because we have a place to meet our people, and that's right at their workplace. And it gives them a great opportunity to learn a lot of the financial skills that, quite frankly, people need.
If the opportunity arose for another credit union, are we restricted to being only affiliated with your credit union?
You are not.
Okay.
Yep,
Because we
you are
wouldn't
not.
want the perception that we're, filtering business to a
Exclusive.
particular credit union.
Absolutely. No.
So, okay.
Great point, and you are not restricted to using just Empower. And this is, of their own volition. Employees can choose to be a member of ours, a member of any other credit union, or do business with Fulton Savings Bank or any other financial institution.
Did you approach the city on this, or did the city approach you? Or
That I don't know. I know the mayor and Charlie have been talking, so it sounds like Charlie did approach the mayor.
I approached via email to the mayor's office in regards to becoming a Select Employer Group. And then from there, we had a meeting.
All right, very good. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Thank you. Seeing none, can I have a motion? Councillor Hill, Councillor Wilmot.
Councilor Cordino?
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey?
Yes.
Councilor Hill?
Yes.
Councilor Tesserero?
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot?
Yes.
And we need a resolution.
And we need, Nancy will take care of that resolution. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item number 8 on the agenda. Mayor William J. Barlow, Jr. requests discussion regarding the sewer rate schedule. The sewer rate schedule applying to the flat sewer rate shall be abandoned and be replaced with the following rate schedule. Flat rate water shall be $75 per quarter. Flat rate sewer shall be $150 per quarter. Mayor Barlow?
Thank you. That's, as I announced in my State of the City address, that's overall a $200 a year reduction in the city water and sewer bill. Obviously, this comes off of the sewer portion. And as I've also, I prefer to not get into all the details for the third time, but really it's a culmination of all the good work we've done up to this point to be able to do this tonight, or next week, I should say. As Councilors Cordino and Gozick know, as I mentioned in my speech, my last meeting as a common councilor, we had the last meeting of the year in the middle of December, and there was an add-on resolution that didn't pass through committee, as sometimes they didn't back then. It was face down on the desk, as sometimes that happened back then, and it was a surprise to definitely the public that we would be voting that night on raising the sewer fees on what was the last meeting of the year, and the last meeting of the outgoing administration, and the last meeting for, I think at that time, 5 of the city councilors, because 5 new ones were coming in. So it was a parting gift, I suppose. And if you remember, it came down to a vote that night. The vote was 3-3. I'll say I voted no. The mayor broke the tie, and it passed. The next day, I was off on vacation and came back. We were sworn in, but you'll remember the first we were sworn in on a Friday. That Monday, it was all our fault. This place was packed with irate citizens, and rightfully so. I remember one lady said that her common councilor said that his advice was to move out of town because they're going up, up, and up. I remember a citizen pointed at Mr. Cordino and said, you know, you're a landlord, you have a special interest in all of this stuff. I mean, our first meeting. So, and I'm bringing this all up because the look back at it now is funny, but it's rewarding, I guess, after 3 years. So, really, we took swift action, I think. When we took office in 2016, we brought Ken Schriebel and Camden Group in right away. It was one of our first acts in the new year. You remember a few months after that, we did the asset management plan, which was a tall task then. I think we allocated $160,000 to do that asset management plan. and of course thank the Common Council at that time for buying in, because you hear these plans and these studies and it seems like a waste of money, but when you stick to it, it's not a waste of money, and that's exactly what we did. That $160,000 asset management plan turned into $3.16 million of investment in 3 years that we followed through that plan, because that asset management plan laid out the schedule, the severity, the condition the plant was in at the time, and really gave us the, in addition to Ken's expertise, gave us the map in which to approach the situation we were in. At the same time, in fact, a little before, I think one of my first meetings as mayor was with Deb Code and Mike Riley, and I asked them how I was going to tackle this problem, and I remember they both pointed to a grant application and said, for some reason we haven't been allowed to apply for this money, and this money is where you would get funds to pay for work that needs to be done on the sewer separation project, the consent decree, because the consent decree was what the previous administration cited for causing all of the problems. So you want to address the problem if there's one root cause. So when I asked why, nobody really knew, other than we were deemed to be ineligible. So without thinking about it too hard, I immediately picked up the phone to Chuck Schumer's office, and then second I called John Katko's office. And I was just looking for a reason to, for somebody to explain to me why we couldn't apply for this money. I never got that reason, but I did get a call back from Schumer's office, I think a month or 6 weeks later, and they said, why don't you go ahead and apply, and when you apply, give us a call and tell us about the project and what you're applying for, and we'll try to make something happen. So that's exactly what I did, with Justin's help and the council's approving to apply for that money. And the New York State Water Grants Program, we applied for it for 2 consecutive years. The most money you can win in 2 years is $5 million, so that's what we won. It's $5 million in 2 years. That money went to pay for some of the consent decree and some of the repairs at the wastewater plant. Without that $5 million, that $5 million would have come directly out of the taxpayers' pockets had we not won those grants, and we'd be talking about raising probably the sewer fee rather than lowering it tonight. So in addition, at the same time that was all happening, you'll remember, Councilor Gozick and Corradino, we implemented the commercial sewer rate for our large users in the city. So what we did is looked at the what our residents were paying gallon for gallon, and we found that the commercial users, those paying using the most water and sewage in the city, they were paying minimal gallon for gallon compared to our homeowners. So we implemented that rate, and that rate really addressed the users like car washes, nursing homes, hospital. Most of these entities are on pilots anyway, so we didn't feel particularly bad about it at the time, certainly don't now, but they're paying their fair share. And I would argue that all of this time, for 30, 40, 50 years, the residents were paying too much, and the large users using all of the service weren't paying enough. So we evened that out by implementing that commercial rate, which increased our revenues, contributed to tonight. And then finally, we negotiated the deal with the county legislature where we exchanged, usually we would pay a bill of $200,000 to work with the county. They would take their leachate to Fulton. Through some conversations, we thought we could do a little bit better, and we said, why don't you bring the leachate here and we'll call it a deal. That was worth $200,000 to us that we didn't have to pay out, so that was $200,000 we were able to put that Ken spent in about 2 minutes, because every time he walks in my office, I know it's expensive. I tell Dina, put a 15-minute cap, because it gets too expensive after that, but it's all paying off now. So that deal was worth $200,000. So all of those items really got us to this point tonight. I'll say the staff at the wastewater facility, to remind you of the agreement, Camden Group and Ken, they manage the facility. We still have city staff there. Ken's done an excellent job, as we've said, continues to do a great job. But the staff at the wastewater plant has done a remarkable job as well. Whenever you introduce that private arm into government, there's some uncertainty and some unrest, and they've really powered through that. Under the old management and old administrations, the motto was no money, don't do anything, Band-Aid anything you can, and it shows in the plans. Not so much tonight, but certainly the last few years it has. And they're now a more proactive group. They're working hard. We've expanded the staff there a bit to make sure our operations and our staffing levels are adequate. And I'll say that not only the appearance of the plant when you walk in is totally different, but the attitude and the sense of pride and the morale of the employees is totally different. And I'm not just saying that as somebody who never goes there. I'm just saying it because it sounds nice, but Councilor Corradino and I went down to thank the guys a couple weeks ago, and you could sense it. They were happy to be in the room, happy to see us down there, and they take some pride and care in their work. And that is, again, a testament to Ken and his ability to get the staff to be happy to work for him and with him. So overall, just a nice story to be able to bring it full circle, if you will. We still have a ways to go. Every interview I've done, I've said that this is really just the beginning of, I think, where we're going. Contrary to what one of your predecessors said, I don't think they're going up, up, and up. I think they'll go down, down, and down. This is really a conservative move. I think maybe there's more there, but I don't want to bite off more than we can chew. Some people have said, well, what about the folks on meters and everything else? And I would just ask and say, wait a minute. Let us make the first right move first. Flat rates are all owner-occupied homeowners. I think that's our first priority, first obligation. They've paid the most dollar for dollar in the 275. Even if you're a homeowner, owner-occupied with a meter, your base is 205. And then you are only charged for what you use then. So to say that the meter person is paying more now is just not true. You're probably, if you're a homeowner of 4 in the house, you're probably paying the base of 205. And then if you're paying more than 205, yeah, it's for what you use after 205. So I think that's pretty fair. I think where we want to focus now, the first order of business, is lower the flat rate. 3,332 flat rate users in the city, all owner-occupied, and I'd like to make a move on them first. And I would tell the homeowners who are on meters, hang in there. You're paying less quarter for quarter already. I would encourage flat rate users to keep moving to meters. I really would, because it's cheaper, it's more fair all across the board. But I think this is one of many moves to come, and I just, as long as Ken keeps working hard and doesn't spend too much money and Dina cuts him off at 15 minutes, we keep making the right return on investment, strategy-driven decisions here, and the guys at the plant stick with us. I think we're going to continue to make headway. Talk about the consent decree briefly. I forgot a talking point. The first 25% of the consent decree, I was a common councilor, I was up in the 7th Ward, it was a complete disaster. The neighborhood was a mess. There were blue bowls getting dropped off in people's front lawns. There were construction. I just bought my new car and the bottom got ripped off because the road wasn't blocked off. It was just a disaster. The second phase, back in 2016, 2017, new contractor, they did a great job, a lot of accountability coming out of City Hall, thanks to Bob Johnson, Robert McGrath, Tom Kells. No blue bowls. Streets were barricaded, came in ahead of schedule, $100,000 under budget. So there's another contributor to tonight. But just everything has, we still have a ways to go, but we're in a much better position. The consent decree, we finished the second phase, the second 25% last year. We're already into the third phase, which is here in the downtown area. That's going to be designed this year with possible construction in 2020, 2021. And then we will settle up with the DEC after that and talk about the fourth phase, if there is a fourth phase, and what that means. Hopefully we have our discharges under control, and maybe there is no fourth phase. Eventually we'll have to do the fourth phase, whether it's mandated or not, but that's kind of the summary of that. So again, thank you for everything, all the votes you've taken, that maybe 80 grand here, 100 grand here, 40 grand here. It seems like we're just spend, 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 but there was a method to our madness, and I think it's paying off tonight. I hope that I think the public very much appreciates it.
Thank you, Mayor. Any comments? Yes, Councilor Tesorio.
I've had at least 30 to 35 calls commending on this action. The people in my ward are so appreciative. They didn't think this was ever going to come to an end. They just saw the increase upon increase upon increase. So I think this is a great thing. I think it's from the past administration to this administration that we have, you know, given some levy to ease their burden, and they're very appreciative. Very appreciative.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Councilor.
I also have heard from very excited residents who are thrilled that their water bill will be coming down, possibly coming down. I do have a question about incentivizing not necessarily conservation, but wise usage or conscious usage of water. Is there a possibility or a way for the city to move towards just mandated meter across the board instead of, without removing the exemption for residential owner-occupied?
I mean, that's certainly...
Which would also turn into an even larger savings on the part of homeowners. Can the city use some of our new funds that have been generated by the amazing work that we've done in terms of our water management to make it easier, to help, what do you call it, contribute to the cost of, or lessen the cost of that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, first of all, I recommend everybody go to the meter. It's the most fair way to be charged for truly, you know, what you use. After you get past the base rate of $2.05, you're only being charged for what you use. And then personally, I know from the city side, we would prefer everybody have meters because then we know who's using what everywhere. Right now, because of the flat rate, we can't tell you, you know, how much is going to homeowners, how much is going to this property, how much is going to this quadrant, how much is feeding off of this line at any given time because of the flat rate and because we don't measure it at the house. So the water meter, again, I would encourage people to get it. It's the most fair way. The city would love it because we would know exactly who's using what and it'd be more accurate on our part. It's certainly a policy the council can set, certainly in your rights to set, that you mandate a water meter. I personally am uncomfortable with mandating the public to do anything. It's the same thing we complain about the DEC does to us on the consent decree. So personally, I'm just not comfortable telling the public what to do, especially in this case where we say, go get a meter. It's going to cost you whatever we said the price was, $200 or whatever it is. Install it and all that trouble. I think as many people as that are willing to do that without us forcing them to do it is the best way to do it. And I'll say, since we took office, we have a ton more meters. Cal's probably knows the number off the top of his head, but we saw it when we were doing the water budget, is you can tell that there's an increase in meters because we're selling them out of the code office, we're pushing them out of the code office. When we run into trouble out in the streets, we encourage them to get a meter. So the sales of meters are going up and more people are getting them through kind of a voluntary method. So far we're really gaining on it, but if that's a mandate the council wanted to say do it by such and such date. Sure.
One interesting thing that I learned today is that we have homeowners that go to a meter, realize that they're using more than their base rate, and back off the meter because we don't have a requirement that you use a meter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, many municipalities have mandated meters for all properties. But I guess, so what you're saying is that that's something that the council would have to take on?
I mean, it's a policy you'd have to do, and I'm just, certainly the mayor could do it. I'm just uncomfortable with forcing a mandate down on folks. But I would say in theory, the $205 for a family of 4 you shouldn't come up off of that much. Now, if you're filling a pool or washing your car or watering the lawn, yeah, you know, you're going to, or water the driveway, which I see people do, which drives me nuts. You know, that's going to cost more. But again, you're paying for what you use. If you don't want to water the lawn every day, you can control your bill, I guess is my point, but to a certain extent.
Okay, anybody else? Any other comments? I personally want to thank you for the trip down memory lane, starting in December of 2015, up to the present. It certainly was quite a trip. and I'm glad that you did spread the credit. I mean, this was certainly a team effort from the people at the facilities, people at City Hall, and especially yourself picking up the phone and calling Senator Schumer in Senator Katko's office. So thank you for your efforts. I do see a comment in the back corner here.
Yeah, I just want to add in, I agree with everything that Carl said.
Can't hear you. Can you ask him to come up to the microphone?
Progress is good.
Can you walk to the microphone? We're having some difficulty hearing you in the front of the room. We have some older people up here.
No, I was just saying I agree with everything that Mayor Barlow said. I think the things right here at the end, though, are the kind of sticky wicket in the process of it, because, you know, I'm all in for lowering the water rate. I think it's a great idea. I think as a community we deserve it. You know, the issue is really the implementation of it, you know, with the flat rate, and it is a difficult line to walk, but you know, the reality is that you're going to have unmetered rate within $20 of the lowest metered rate. I mean, it's as much of a lack of incentive to get a meter as, you know, I think you can get. I don't think you can put it anywhere forward. And you know, the reality is, in the last 20 years, the water industry has, whether it's statewide, nationwide, worldwide, is doing nothing more than metering, you know, for all the reasons you just said. And it's, it'll be tough to go back from that, you know, once it's off. And, you know, I think you got to look at why is it that all these unmetered residencies haven't taken advantage. You know, it's a great idea to have $50 off a quarter, but why haven't they taken advantage of the $70 off a quarter? You know, they've had 3 years to do that. I think you got to ask the question, why is that? And you know, there's, you know, it could be, you know, fixed income type of situation, which, you know, would be great to be able to address somehow. There could just be lack of information, misinformed, which is kind of shame on us. It could just be a habit that we've always have been unmetered as a household, so we're not going forward. Or potentially, the largest thing is, as you mentioned, large users that would prefer to stay on that. And the background of the meters being the fairest way to do things is in the background. You know, the flip side of that, and I think Susan referred to it, is, you know, it's kind of the people who have gotten meters, and I understand your thing about holding off on them. You know, I'm just curious if there's any other way that it can be handled. You know, if the flat rate users have to be addressed, then is there some way to actually meet and get them on a meter? And you know, I think that's maybe a potential middle ground between not poking people who've gone out and tried to do the right thing by getting a meter, and trying to help out the situation of the unmetered for virtually the same cost that it would take to do this rate decrease. Because the rate decrease really is, if $70 a quarter wasn't a good enough incentive to get people to get to a meter, you know, you're never going to get there at $20 a quarter. And, you know, because the ROI just isn't there. I hate to say go back to the drawing table, but, you know, I think there can be creative ways not to torpedo the move towards going to meters, because that's really the way we need to go. The last thing I'll just say is, you know, I'm not sure people in our community realize how unusual it is to actually have an unmetered situation. You know, I don't know what the exact statistics in New York State are, but virtually every little village, hamlet, municipality is 100% metered. I do know that in the state of New York, all the cities that are the size of Oswego or larger, so that's probably anything over 15,000, there are only 3 in the entire state that's unmetered. And, it's not a group we want to be in, quite honestly. And, it's to disincentivize it is a curious move, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Fogarty. Another question here in the back corner.
Just a quick clarification there. We're lowering the sewer rate, we're not lowering the water rate. So you can't say, can you take the excess funds, if that's what you want to call them, which they aren't, you're just giving money back to the public, that it's their money anyway. You can't take the, quote, excessive funds in the sewer fund to go buy water meters. They're two different pots of money that we can't mix. So even if we had 600 grand in water fund to lie around and go buy everybody a meter to use, I probably wouldn't be for that. You're just taking the people's money to buy everybody else meters. But maybe then you could talk about it. You can't now because it's two different pots of money.
Thank you.
First of all, one of the major problems with why our city is like it is and not like the rest of them is because of that lake out there and a lot of your old timers in this town, and there's still a bunch of them here that feel it's their lake. And you got to convince them that it's not their lake. Good luck. Now, a little history and then I'll leave you alone. I won't ask another question tonight. Dave White, when he ran for the great mayor of Oswego, here proposed that meter for everybody in the city. And Randy got all over him. The mayor got all, and he lost the election on that bid. So you can do whatever you want, because I'm a renter. But the thing is, I wish you luck trying to pass this off on these people and convince them this is the right way to go. Because I wish you luck, because they still think that lake out there is theirs.
Yeah.
Okay? Thanks, Robbie, okay?
But it's political and it's hard to get done because,
yes, it is.
Politically speaking, it's hard to get done because it's a mandate. I mean, I think if I agree with everything Mr. Fulbright said, sure, and I just said that. In a perfect world, they would have meters because they pay for what they use. In a perfect world for us, we would know exactly the usage. We have at the water plant, actually, we pump water out of the water plant. In my first summer in office, we had to put a advisory on because we have so many leaks between here and the reservoir that we can't fill the reservoir to get adequate pressure throughout the city. We have a hard time knowing where the leaks are because we don't know who's using what around the city, right? So in a perfect world, I agree, but it's just the political part and the reality part is it's easy for a non-elected to go tell the residents what to do, not so easy for somebody who's elected and a voice for the people to say, yeah, you elected me to be your voice, but go do this. It's hard to do.
All right, very good. Any other comments from the council on this subject? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Councilor Tesorio, Councilor Wilmot.
Councilor Corradino.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Tesorero.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
We need a resolution.
And we need a resolution, Mayor.
Thank you.
All right, I believe that was the last and final item for this committee. Is there anything else we might have overlooked? Guess not. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Councilor Hill, Councilor DeMassey.
Councilor Corradino.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Tesorero.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
At this time, I'd like to call the Physical Services Committee meeting for January 22nd, 2019 to order. Please call the roll.
Councilor Hill.
Here.
Councilor Wilmot.
Here.
Councilor DeMassey. Here. Councilor Gozick.
Here.
Could I please have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 7th, 2019 committee meeting? Councilor Gozick, Councilor Wilmot.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Gozick.
Yes.
Is there any old business to come before this committee? Seeing none, we'll move on to communications. Item number 1, the Engineering Department requests use of public space on behalf of Edward Alberts, owner and contract purchaser of commercial properties located at 147 to 159 West 1st Street in the 3rd Ward for proposed new mixed-use project. Mr. Johnson?
Okay, so this mixed-use project going to require them to do a lot of damage and around our sidewalks. They want to bump out a little piece on Cayuga Street to be able to accommodate the parking pretty much as it is, but out further because they're going to build right up to the property line. So this resolution is to allow them to do the work on Water Street and the new sidewalks and curbing on Cayuga Street. And that'll line them up for enhancing the parking on Cayuga Street.
Yeah, this is a very important project for downtown. I fully support it, and I hope everyone else would support it as well. Are there any questions? Could I have a motion, please? Councilor Wilmot, Councilor DeMassey.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Goza.
Yes.
Item number 2, the Oswego City County Youth Bureau is requesting use of Brightbeck Park, including the pavilion, on Saturday, April 20th, 2019, from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. for the annual Easter egg hunt. The Kiwanis will be providing snacks for the participants. The event will need running water and electricity. Mr. Chetney?
I guess that'd be subject if the snow was gone by then. So last year they had quite a large crowd for the event, and the only complaints we really got were the fact that they couldn't use restrooms or such. So that's what was added to the proposal this year. But aside from that, it would be the same program that's been run previously.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Chetney? Okay, could I have a motion, please? Councilor Gozick, Councilor DeMassey.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Goza.
Yes.
Item number 3, Justin Rudgick, Community Development Director, received a request from Malcolm Huggins, Assistant Director of Annual Giving, SUNY Oswego, regarding a celebration event, Graduating Senior Sunset Watch, to be held on Saturday, May 11, 2019, from 6:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. The event is requesting use of Brightbeck Park in the pavilion. There will be a sound system with a DJ as well as food for approximately 200 students. Mr. Stahl.
Thank you, Councilors. Unfortunately, Director Rudgick was not able to be here tonight, so I will be filling in for him. This is a new event. This will be the first year they will be looking to do it. So we've met with a gentleman from SUNY. This will be they're calling it the Graduating Senior Sunset Watch, and they're hoping to get kind of that last feeling as we go sunset before they head off. And, it's a great event. We're excited about it. It is free to attend. There will not be any alcohol, and it will be at the Brightbeck Park. So, any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Stahl? Okay, could I have a motion, please? Councilor DeMassey, Councilor Wilmot.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Goza.
Yes.
Item number 4, Justin Rudgick, Community Development Director, received a request from the Oswego Lions Club regarding the annual River's Edge Craft Show to be held on Sunday, June 9, 2019, between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. They are requesting use of Brightbeck Park, use of bandstand, waiver of noise ordinance, waiver of open container ordinance, use of parking lots for vendor parking, and permission to place several framed signs at various locations advertising the craft show. Mr. Shaw?
Thank you. This is a recurring event. I know it was very well attended last year. People who attended about it. They did also appreciate the aid from our DPW in that project. So I don't know if there's any questions, but I think most people know about that one from last year. So no changes from last year.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, could I have a motion, please? Councilor Gozick, Councilor DeMassey.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey. Yes. Councilor Goza.
Yes.
Item number 5, Justin Rudgick, Community Development Director, received a request for the Wednesday night summer concerts by the Oswego City Band to be held at Brightbeck Park Wednesday evenings in July and August. The event is requesting use of public space at Brightbeck Park, as well as the pavilion, use of the bandstand, and a noise ordinance waiver.
Great. I believe this event has been going on at least 20 years, or maybe 30 years. It's actually one of the best kept secrets. I think a lot of folks don't even know it's happening, unfortunately. I think hopefully we'll do a good job this year of making sure people know all about it. But it is out there there's a free to attend event out at Brightbeck Park in July and August.
Great. Any questions?
Just a comment. I attend regularly with my son and my cousin Stanley Gosick runs the City Jazz Band, but they actually alternate. If you don't know, they do the big band swing, and then the next time they do the jazz, and that's really an educational experience as well. And they always thank the Common Council for their support. I should know how long, but you're right. It's been going on for quite a long time. The bandstand's named for Weldon Gross, and they make it a point to tell the history of the bandstand and to pull out selections and songs that it's not the same songs every week, and it's really a world-class musical performance every time. So I just wanted to say I support it 100%, and I hope we can support this again for another 20 or 30 years.
Thank you. Could I have a motion, please? Counselor Gozick, Counselor DeMassey.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey. Yes. Counselor Gozick.
Yes.
Item number 6, Justin Rudgick, Community Development Director, received a request from the Oswego YMCA to hold the Oswego YMCA Dragon Boat Festival from August 7th to 10th, 2019. They are requesting use of public space at Brightbeck Park, use of bandstand, waiver of open container ordinance, and a noise ordinance waiver. Mr. Stahl.
Thank you. This again, recurring event. This is really an amazing event. I think those who have not attended this one, you need to check it out. It is world class. I mean, the boats that they bring in, and I think the YMCA did a wonderful job. This, along with the next one, which will be the Atomic Invitational, they're actually going to be happening again this year, the exact same weekend. There was, I think, quite a bit of work has gone into it between both of those two groups to make sure that this is going to be two different events, but they're going to happen seamlessly. I want to thank the folks from the DPW as well for helping out with a plan, because as you know, the Flexo site is no longer going to be utilized. That has been utilized in the past, and so we've put together a plan with input from both the YMCA and the Atomic Invitational groups, Tom Allen, and I think it's going to be it's going to go off without a hit, and I think it's well planned, so I'm excited about both of those.
Excellent. Any questions? Okay, could I have a motion, please? Counselor Gozick, Counselor DeMassey.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey. Yes. Counselor Gozick.
Yes.
And item number 7, Justin Rudgick, Community Development Director, received a request from Thomas Allen to hold the Atomic Invitational Fishing Event on August 8th to 11th, 2019. They're requesting use of public space at Brightbeck Park Sunset Circle area, access to Wrights Landing Marina, and additional garbage cans.
Kind of stole this one's thunder a little, the last one, but ultimately this is the big fishing tournament that Tom Allen holds here in Oswego every year. Really a worldwide draw, and excited to see that happening again this year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, could I please have a motion? Counselor Wilmot, Counselor DeMassey.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey. Yes. Counselor Gozick.
Yes.
Is there any other business to come before this committee? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Counselor DeMassey and Counselor Gozick.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey. Yes. Counselor Gozick.
Yes.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to call the Planning and Development Committee meeting for January 22nd, 2019. Can I get a roll call, please?
Counselor Tesoriero.
Here.
Counselor Corradino.
Here.
Counselor McBrady.
Here.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the January 7th, 2019 community meeting? Councilor McBrady, Councilor Corradino.
Counselor Tesoriero.
Yes.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor McBrady.
Yes.
Is there any old business that come before this committee? I see none. I'll go to communication. Item number 1. Mayor William J. Barlow, Jr. is pleased to present the comprehensive rewrite of Chapter 280 of the City Code, known as the Zoning Ordinance of the City of Oswego, New York, for consideration by the Common Council. If approved, it will require a public hearing as well as a full environmental review in accordance with the SECOR, which the Council authorized on January 14th. Mayor?
Thank you. This is going to take me a few minutes, so I just want to make sure that I'm going to go in order. First, I need to preface everything about this zoning code rewrite by saying that everything that exists, the way it exists now, is obviously grandfathered in. So all the changes within this rewrite are from the day it's approved forward. So just to stop the hysteria before it starts, there's no situation where the business I'm running in this district, I'm not going to be allowed to run anymore. There's no scenario where I have this rental property, I'm going to have to kick all of these students out, or whatever scenario I'm sure will get brought up. It's about from now moving forward. So everything as it exists now is okay under the zoning code. It's only if they go to get new approvals as time goes on. I'll also say that this is really tonight, hopefully I won't take more than 10-15 minutes, but even so, I'm going to skim the surface. We spent, gosh, I don't even know when we approved this. I want to say spring of 17. So almost 2 years to get to this point, because it is a total comprehensive rewrite. Every page has been, I won't say rewritten, but we've looked at every page, every definition, every punctuation mark, spelling, everything, districts, purpose of districts, everything we looked at. We had a committee who we really had subcommittees to the committee, meetings after meetings. It's really been a long, long process, but I think the final product will be worth it. I also think the final product is something that will have an influence on this community, an effect on this community for decades to come. Oddly enough, I guess the first zoning code was back in 1940, then they redid it in 1980. So here we are in 2019, almost 40 years, I guess, later. So who knows, maybe in 40 years someone will stand up here and say this was garbage too, but I think it's pretty good right now. So what my plan is okay, so first, we already have the proposed zoning code. The zoning code as it exists today is up on the website all the time. This proposed zoning code, every page of it is already on the website for the public to go through. The the new map is already on the website, and then if you get on the website to look, the key piece is the table of uses. So I'll start there. The table of uses is something that really doesn't exist in our code now as clear as it will exist. The table of uses is literally a table that's extremely easy to read. It's very simple. It's simplified, streamlined, and condensed to 2 pages, 3 pages. And it has literally every category, every type of bill. I'll just go down so you know what I'm talking about. Residential uses, boarding houses, condominiums, dormitories, goes down on different variations of residential uses there. Same for non-residential civic uses, commercial and services, and it goes through, this is a type of use, and goes through things such as daycare center, drive-through facility, funeral services, gasoline station, so it literally goes through everything. And then if you follow this, here's the district that you're talking about, identified on the map, and if you go down, you can see that an X means it's prohibited, a P means it's by permit, it's a permitted use by permit, and then a special permit is SP. So you literally can think of a business, think of the type of business, a type of service, any situation, look at this table and figure out what can go where. So this should alleviate a lot of the hypotheticals that I'm sure the council is going to encounter over the next month or so, because it's simple to read and it's on the website. So if people really want to dig into this, the 3 tools you need, the code itself, the table, and the map, are all already on the website. So I encourage you, if you're interested, before you start hurling out questions, you can probably get a lot of them answered with the information that's public on the website already. So what I like to do is, different from the code we have now, every district we gave a purpose. And to really understand what we accomplished and what I think we accomplished in this code, you have to understand the problems that we face in code enforcement and permit and zoning on a daily basis. You know, people will play with definitions, they'll play with the words may, shall not, could, should, you know, any situation that you can come up with based on language, they'll throw out there and try to present it in a way to where their project works or their use works. So we cleaned up a lot of language all throughout the code, just changing words and trying to have a more clear and I guess defiant, if you will, code, so that when you read the code, there really isn't much interpretation after that. The code says what the code says. It gives our guys upstairs, Jeff and Kurt, clear language to go by, and Kevin and the boards, clear language to go by when they're making these decisions, which I think is probably half of the problem we have now. So to start along those lines, we gave a purpose to every district. So even if they want to play with language, even if they want to throw some words around or misconstrue what we're trying to say, we're still going to fall back on the purpose of each district and say, well, look, yeah, maybe it says shall, and maybe it shouldn't we can debate what shall means, but let's look at the purpose. Does your project fit the purpose? So what I'd like to do is go through every district, say the purpose of the district as it's defined in the code, and then talk about a very few of the permitted uses, give a couple examples of the special permit, and talk about, at least in some of the situations, where the real difference is between the code as it exists today and what will exist when we adopt this. So I think I'll start with Traditional Neighborhood 1. Traditional Neighborhood 1, the purpose is, of the TN1 district is to provide for traditional single-family housing, including high-density housing, and limit other uses to pre-existing non-conforming uses while preserving green space. So what does that mean? Where we came, the permitted use for the green district is pretty much they stay the same as they exist in the code today. So there's really not much change. The permitted uses are single-family homes, religious institution, schools. Special permits include home occupation, civic uses, conversions from non-living space into living space. So point is, it's pretty regulated. Single-family homes and home occupations by special permit. That way you don't have that mixed use creeping in where you have somebody who's causing a lot of disturbance, a lot of congestion, traffic, because they have a yoga studio in their garage. It's a special permit where there's a process and we'll take everything into consideration. The point is, it's not much different than what is in R3 now. But if you look at the map, the biggest difference is these green districts are going to be our TN1s, the most tightly regulated, and they restrict the most. If you go over to the map now, the R3 is all of this green. So all the neighborhood is green. We're limiting it to these core areas. A lot of the areas is where the Oswego Renaissance Association has a lot of progress going on. We have our historic parks, our historic homes, a lot of amenities. The trouble is, under the R3, the special permits were through the roof. Anything could qualify for a special permit. For instance, hospitals, nursing homes, clubs, two-family dwellings, storage buildings, antique sales, professional offices, beauty parlors, home occupation, public utility facilities. So that may not sound too terrible, even though I think it sounds terrible, but if you think that all of those things I just mentioned are allowed to be, down where Susan lives, and up where Rob lives, and where I live, right, all in virtually every neighborhood, it's really hard to make the case that, a hospital should go down on West 5th Street, down towards the lake. It's just not appropriate. And it's really hard to argue how is something that's permitted up here on Kennedy Ave, how does that fit down on West 5th Street in Scotland? It doesn't. So it's really disturbing that we've gone all this time since 1980, and literally it's been the Wild West through all of our neighborhoods with all of those uses allowed by special permit, which has the political machine behind it. You can try to play with words and get a special permit for anything throughout the whole city. So that mistake right there, that biggest difference between the special permits between TN1 and the R3 is what I believe has led to the degradation of our neighborhoods, and that activity, that congestion, the disturbance, the lack of a real tight-knit, dense neighborhood is because we've allowed those activities to take place in what should be a traditional neighborhood with single-family owner-occupied homes only. So that, I would point to, is the biggest difference in the entire code, other than taking the time to be extremely clear on purpose and definition. That having these green districts in TN1 versus R3 being virtually the entire city is the biggest difference. So we wanted those ORA zones, those dense neighborhoods, the historic neighborhoods with the homes with nice architecture to be the most regulated, the most restrictive. So then we went to TN2, and that's the, I don't know, I guess light tan, if you want to say, around all of the 4 green districts. The purpose for the TN2 is to provide for a compatible mixture of private residences of varying density and commercial uses where the permitted commercial uses historically have coincided with the residential use. So that kind of covers us versus not getting too mixed up in what is a appropriate use there. Permitted uses really the same as TN2, single-family homes, two-family religion and schools, religious institution schools. The special permit is the biggest difference from a TN1 to TN2 because we expand the special permit. Still has to go through the zoning board, probably has to go through the planning board, still needs to go through our code enforcement. The special permit we expand a bit, and this is where you get the medical offices, the dentist offices, the law office, the funeral service. So again, we're not putting, gyms in the middle of TN2s, but a law office or a dental office, a funeral service is something that would go into TN2, and that's, again, the light tan. Then I'll go to the urban residential, which is pink, light pink. The purpose for the urban residential, that's totally new. It's really not comparable to, well, I shouldn't say it's not comparable, because virtually the green made the city urban residential. But the light pink, the purpose is to provide for a compatible mixture of private residences of varying density, including other than single-family homes and multiple mixed commercial uses, where the permitted mixed commercial use historically have coincided with the residential use, in areas where new single-family home development is unlikely to occur. So what we're talking about here is permitted as single and two-family homes. A special permit would be a multi-family dwelling, condos, hospital, storage space. So that's light pink. So really what we're saying is here, there's the sewage treatment plant, there's the oil tanks. This neighborhood isn't particularly a healthy neighborhood as it exists today. So if there was new proposed student housing developments, a new proposed hospital, some sort of large-scale development that doesn't belong in neighborhoods or in our core downtown, this is an area of land of town where we would allow that to happen. As it exists now, they'd have to level some of the worst houses to clear land to make it happen. That's okay with me. I'll go to the total opposite end now. Suburban residential, that's the dark brown. Right over there. Yeah, it's the orange, I'm sorry. Suburban residential is the orange. So this purpose is to accommodate single-family development and related uses in those areas of Oswego where public water is available and where adequate roads, drainage systems, and related infrastructure is already in place. The permitted use here is single-family homes, two-family golf course, special permit medical offices, professional offices, indoor recreation, and public utility facilities, daycare centers, things like this. So again, you're moving to a more, still a neighborhood, but special permits you the larger buildings, the larger, I don't want to say companies, but buildings that have a larger use like a daycare center. And that's down here. And that really isn't too far off of kind of what exists there today. A lot of it's undeveloped, but it's the neighborhoods that have wider roads, more space between homes, the golf course is there. So not too much of a deviation off of from where we are now. Now we're going to go back to the difference between the TN1 versus the R3. R3 dominated a lot of the neighborhoods and allowed for way too many uses in our core neighborhoods. TN1 really tightens it up, regulates it so that it's only single-family homes. The same thing that could be said for allowing too much activity in our neighborhoods by the R3 can be said for downtown. If you look at our downtown as it exists now, it's all pink. By downtown, I mean downtown. So if you look, you have McDonald's, you have core downtown, and you have, some convenience stores, small grocery stores here. It's really hard to understand how is something that is appropriate here, at this spot as it exists today, the same appropriate to go here as well, right? It's almost like you have to pick one. Like the neighborhood situation. So what we're doing is we identified two, I won't call them downtown districts, but we identified a traditional downtown, which is our core downtown here near City Hall, West 1st, West 2nd, West 3rd, a little bit on the east side as well. And we made that more regulated, more specific, more controlled than what we're going to call the traditional business. So traditional downtown is purple. and we're really focusing in on the corridor here from 7th Street to Water Street to the bridge, and down the West 1st, West 2nd corridor. We're touching a little bit over here on the east side, 3rd and 4th, where Azteca is, and in that area there's some potential there, 1850 House and so forth. And that's where we want to focus a lot of our downtown design guidelines. Will be involved in that area, where we'll control type of signage, type of architecture, what you can do to the older buildings, what you can't do. The traditional downtown by permit. Permitted use will be an arcade, antique sales, art gallery, bar and lounge, a brew pub, restaurant, retail, professional offices. A special permit would be a hotel, club, business office, a commercial school, condos, a multiple family dwelling. So it's a little tighter there. The traditional business, all the permitted uses are the same as the TD, but we allow a daycare or a convenience store. So a convenience store really can't go in the core downtown, but it can go in the traditional business area. By special permit, we expand the business opportunity, so it's not in our core downtown, but it's still close to downtown and sees a lot of traffic. For instance, the controversial one, drive-thrus. Well, we agree, we don't want a drive-through in our core downtown at West 1st and Bridge. All right, but where could a drive-through go? It could go certainly on the outskirts of downtown. Not downtown, but they need to be near traffic to have a drive-through, believe it or not. So the special permit in traditional business, we allow a storage facility, drive-through, hospital, parking lots, repair shop, things where cars get in and out. So we're not forcing traffic downtown, but they're near the density, the population, where they'll actually survive as a business. So they're the two biggest differences is in the special permit uses for those two districts. Perhaps just as important, I'd like to say what is not in traditional downtown or traditional business. No pawn shops, no head shops. Let's see, what else is not? No tattoo shops. Do we put tattoo? Yeah, no tattoo shops. So the paraphernalia that you see when you're waiting on the corner of West 2nd and Bridge, when you're at a stoplight and your kids are in the passenger seat and they're like, Mom, what's that in the window? Going forward, of course, everything that's there can stay there. But once that paraphernalia is no longer in the window and a new business takes over, they're not allowed in that area. In fact, we went out of our way to put them, well, I shouldn't go overboard, but they're not going to be too visible based on where they're allowed now. That'll probably get us in trouble, won't it? Commercial business, did I say commercial business? I didn't even say the purpose of traditional business, did I? I got ahead of myself. Okay, so the purpose of traditional downtown, the dark purple, is to establish a visually attractive, inviting, and economically vibrant city core that stimulates a diverse economic base for those who work, visit, and reside in the district. Reuse and renovation of existing structures is encouraged. Future development should be compatible with the TD District's quaint character. It should help promote a safe, pleasant, livable, and pedestrian-oriented district that preserves and enhances the city's unique cultural, historical, and architectural heritage. The traditional business, not the core downtown, the purpose is to establish a transition between the traditional downtown district and the commercial business district. So it's kind of the in-between. The TB district emphasizes compatible pedestrian and vehicle traffic and preservation of the city's cultural, historical, and architectural heritage. So you can even tell just in the language how we're making the transition from the core downtown to not the core downtown, but certainly not the shopping mall, shopping plazas out on 104. Next is the commercial business district, which is the brown. Is that brown, Tim? That's brown. This is the Walmart area now. The purpose of the CB district is to establish an area for larger scale commerce that is primarily accessible by vehicle. It includes shopping malls, lifestyle centers, large-scale retail establishments, as well as many others. The permitted uses are engine shops, body piercings. There you go. mall, shopping plaza, pawn shops, daycare, auto dealer. So if you want to have those businesses, that's the place to go, is out there. And actually, even the head shops still need a special permit in that area too. So, and a large-scale construction company special permit. Next, we go to, and that's not a huge deviation off of what exists there now. The planned district, I should say, that's pretty minor. That's pretty much open season for whatever may come our way, and that's just a little area there. It's up where Ron lives. That's nice. I'll read the purpose.
Thanks, Mayor.
It's pretty open-ended. Where specifically permitted by the Common Council, could be multifamily and condominium dwelling units may be constructed to conform to the following regulations that we outline in the district. So, again, the one area, Arcadia Ave, is already developed. Then there's the other smaller area. The industrial district, not a huge deviation off of how it exists now. The purpose of the industrial district is to, and that's the gray area out where the dog park is. We already have some construction companies, some small manufacturers. The purpose is to establish a suitable location for industrial uses within the city. Because industrial uses may have a considerable impact upon infrastructure, utilities, transportation, wastewater treatment, and electricity, the location of the IN district and the standards it requires will ensure that industrial users have access to all of these resources. The industrial district also allows for industrial parks, transportation and communication facilities, as well as the manufacture, storage, or distribution of products. Compatible commercial uses such as offices, laboratories, restaurants, and uses designed and limited to serve persons working in the district also may be allowed in the industrial district. Because non-compatible uses have the potential to encroach upon or displace industrial uses, they are not appropriate for the IN district. Some of those permitted uses are large and small scale construction companies, commercial storage, heavy equipment storage or sales, a rehab center, bottle redemption center, things like that. A special permit would be a junkyard, a nursing home, a correctional facility, a community center. So that kind of gives you the idea of that. Large site plans that require a lot of acreage, and certainly not a business or a use that you want to have near where anybody's living, or near, a quaint, in a quaint atmosphere near businesses where people are walking in and out of all the time. And then two more unique districts. The Maritime District, that's in purple. The City of Oswego, the purpose is the City of Oswego has long been an important port on Lake Ontario. The purpose of the MH District is to foster uses that preserve and are consistent with the city's maritime industries, history, and culture, and to be a transition between these maritime uses and the Waterfront District. Where applicable, development of the MH District should be consistent with the City of Oswego Waterfront Master Plan. So this is really a way to memorialize and give even more legitimacy to our comprehensive waterfront study that we did when we first took office. What that does is takes the purple area and really controls, it makes it so literally everything is prohibited except civic uses or storage or retail by special permit. What that's short for is anything that's going to happen there is going to have to go through every step of city government. The public's going to have to be involved. It's going to come before the council. It's going to go before the planning board, the zoning board. It's going to go up to the third floor of City Hall. It's going to be very public because it's prohibited except civic uses anyway. So it's going to be a hard sell to really get a private person to build anything there, because that area right now is where Veteran Stage is, where we have our summer concert series. It's where the pier is, where the Marine Museum is. So that's really the way we want to keep it, unless it's for public use, a civic use, and we're going to capitalize on our waterfront. Certainly not concrete making plants that exist there now. And then the last one is the Waterfront District, and that's blue. It's Brightbeck Park, pretty much. The Waterfront District is unique because it largely comprises publicly owned lands Encouraged uses include civic uses that are open to the public. So I'm sorry, the blue is where Veteran Stage is. The purple is the Marine Museum Pier. Civic uses that are open to the public, such as public green spaces, as well as uses that attract visitors and promote waterfront recreation, entertainment, and living. Uses must complement and not compete with the permitted uses in the TD district and BD district. Development of the water district should be consistent with the City of Oswego, again, the waterfront master plan. Uses are by special permit only, so everything is literally prohibited. Again, uses by special permit only include outdoor recreation, marina activities, dwellings, a bar, lounge, a community center, condos. So what we're saying here is, first and foremost, Breitbeck Park is always going to be Breitbeck Park. If anything were to ever even be thought of being maybe proposed, possibly at Breitbeck Park, it's going to be very public, it's going to be scrutinized, it's going to go through every step, the code office, planning board, zoning board, committee, council, a very public process if that ever were to happen. And then even the uses have to be outdoor, or they have to complement the use of the marina and activities that happen in the marina. Or if there was a restaurant proposed to go down on the pier, let's say near the yacht club, or somewhere in the marina or something like that, I think that would probably be good for the city. But again, if that ever did come up, it'd be you know, a very public process. And of course, condos. And where I think I don't want people to look at the waterfront district and only see Breitbeck Park. I think that'll be something, maybe somebody who wants to be against this, maybe the easiest thing they could do is say, well, listen to what they want to do to Breitbeck Park. That's not what we're saying at all. Breitbeck Park, at least as we just spent $250,000 on Harbor Trail, so I don't think we're touching that anytime soon. But I would have people look at this area where the baseball field is now, and up in this area, because I think that is an area where perhaps years from now somebody could look and say, you know what, an apartment would be good there with that view of the lake and the sunset and so forth. That's a very desirable area of town that I don't think we're capitalizing on like we should now. So I think down the road it is good to open up that area, but keep it focused on the waterfront. Don't let somebody build a factory there or something like that. So like I said, I just skimmed the surface. If you really want to dig in and see every use, every scenario, you can throw out just about any type of development, building, any idea, and I think that table covers it. We've cleared up definitions. We've given each district a purpose. We've been very, very specific. A lot of the problems we run into, at least I would say in the neighborhoods and downtown, is how flexible and ambiguous our zoning code now can be. I mean, literally, I don't feel bad saying, depending on who you know or how you pitch your idea, you may or may not get approval, or there's just so many ways to look at everything. Everything's up to interpretation, and that's why you've seen our neighborhoods slowly go downhill, because you let these very diverse, different uses into our core neighborhoods. You've seen the inconsistencies within our downtown. So I think we've really cleaned it up, and this is a document that the guys upstairs can really go by, and when somebody comes up and wants to give them a hard time and say the city's being unfriendly to a business or development or not treating them fair, they can have the code to back them up. Right now they can get in an argument over any sentence in the code. This thing they can open up, point to the page, and let the person pitching the development, you tell me, does it fit this purpose? Read that. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, then you have to go to the other district. And that's not being business unfriendly, that's called smart municipal planning. Something that this city, I think, has really failed to do in the since at least 1980. Because having that much of the city neighborhoods be in R3, where we allow just about anything, is probably is what has brought us so many problems in the degradation of our neighborhoods. So anyway, I would encourage people who are interested in this to go on the website, go through the table. I think if you pick a scenario or pick a development, that table will explain it to you at the same side, along the same lines. If you don't have a development and you're just a homeowner and want to see what your neighborhood could become. Go down and look at the entire list of uses, read the purpose, read the language, and don't just go by the color on the map. The color on the map can be helpful, but don't automatically say, well, I live 2 blocks out of the green TN1, so they must think that my neighborhood's not nice, and I don't like this code. I would highly encourage you to go through the language and become familiar with it, and it's not as scary as it seems. It actually gets pretty interesting once you begin to understand it. If you are interested, the other thing I would look at is the lines and the colors of the map. So maybe drive around and see where we drew a line and try and understand why this line ends there, why it starts there, because there really is a rhyme or reason to just about everything we've done. Like I said, this goes back to 2017, so it wasn't something we shoved through. It was something we took a really long time on. We paid big money to do it. We paid a little extra money to do it right. We involved, I think, a nice blend of community members. I should thank the planning committee who was on this, Tim Stahl, Justin Rudgick, Paul Stewart, Sue Sweet, Christina Chamberlain from the planning and zoning boards, Jim Bell, Tim from the Willatus Law Firm spent the last 2 years of his life dealing with me. As I'm sure some of the folks over there can tell you, it's not always the best thing because the phone calls can be a little relentless. But it's been a lot of work, and it's a product I'm very proud of, but I'd like the public to support it as well. So talking about the next steps, we haven't rushed it up to this point. We're not going to rush it through because it's a document I stand behind. I think the public will like it, and I think if they take the time to understand it, or if they don't, they reach out and want an explanation without jumping to a conclusion, they will eventually support it. But I'm asking the council tonight to pass it at committee, so then Monday we schedule a public hearing. 2 weeks from Monday we will have the public hearing, but we will not vote on it then. We'll give it 2 more weeks after that, just to take our time, because in the meantime, we just had Willatus do the seeker that we passed last week, so they have to do the seeker the whole way through. And finally, once that's wrapped up, assuming it fits that timeline, if we have to delay it again, we'll delay it again, but as long as the public's not outraged, I think we could probably pass it that night. Happy to take any questions, or if the committee or council has any comments or questions, I'll take those as well. And I already introduced him, but and I should thank Kevin. He had quite a bit of, he was in all the meetings. Sorry, Kevin. I always miss Kevin. I don't know what it is. Obviously, him and Tim work together. They still have a ton of work to do with the seeker, but thank you, Kevin, for all of your input. But any technical questions that I'm not capable of answering, I'm going to have Tim or Kevin answer. So,
Anybody from the council want to comment?
Yep.
I just want to thank you, Mayor, for the process. I know it's been long. It's been hard work, but I think it's something that was well, overdue. I'm sure we're going to have some questions, and we're going to have some, a little bit of work to fine-tune it, but I think it's a great start. I think it's a great start. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions from the audience?
I'd say they've seen it before. We've had a couple meetings, so they're not just looking at it for the first time. Before we presented it, I wanted to make sure we didn't get here and have wholesale changes.
The gentleman from the back.
I just want to remind the mayor of this, that zoning people upstairs, if they get some guy in there that doesn't like what he's listened to, who's the next person he goes to? You better back these guys, because I can tell you right now, after the last 30 years of me watching, the mayor played games, the mayors played politics with some of these decisions. If you're going to stay the course, that's fine. Back these guys up. But don't bend, my friend.
Thank you. That's great advice.
Thank you. Any other comments? Can I get a motion to...
Linda's got a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You wouldn't want to cut Linda out, would you?
I'm sorry, Linda.
With what Miles said, with going through this literally when he talks about the wording, there isn't going to need to be backing. It's very well written when you see. It's I think you'll be happy when you read it. Nobody can play games after this. That's what is really important about it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Can I get a motion to approve this to go to a public hearing? Councilor Cordino, Councilor McBurney. Call the roll.
Counselor Tesarero?
Yes.
Counselor Corradino?
Yes.
Counselor McBurney?
Is there any other business to come before this committee? I see none. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Councilor Cordino, Councilor McBurney.
Counselor Tesarero?
Yes.
Counselor Corradino?
Yes.
Counselor McBurney?
I'm glad the meeting wasn't yesterday. It was even colder.